The snow fell in heavy silence that night, blanketing the city streets in a cold, merciless white. People hurried past one another, heads bowed, faces hidden beneath scarves and coats, desperate to escape the biting wind that cut through everything it touched. Yet beneath the glow of a flickering streetlight on the corner of Elm and 7th, a woman sat motionless on the frozen pavement, clutching a small bundle of fabric close to her chest. Her clothes were thin, soaked through with melting snow. Her lips trembled, her eyes hollow and glassy, but it was the faint whimper coming from that small bundle that broke the night open with unbearable sorrow. The baby was crying, a weak, fading cry, like the world itself was running out of warmth. The mother tried to whisper soft words, to hush the child, but her voice cracked. She was too cold to speak, too tired to move. Before we go deeper into this powerful, true story of kindness, if you believe that compassion still exists in this world, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness of Americans. Every small act of support helps us spread more hope and humanity in a world that desperately needs it. The woman's name was Sarah, once a nurse, a mother and a wife, but the world had been unkind to her. 2 years ago, she lost her husband in a tragic car accident. He was on his way home from a night shift when a drunk driver hit his car head-on. He never made it back. Their life insurance claim was denied because of a technicality, and Sarah was left alone with a newborn baby and hospital bills that ate everything she had saved. She tried to keep working, but depression and grief consumed her. When the hospital downsized, she was among the first to be let go. Months passed. Rent piled up. Friends disappeared. The last thing she remembered before everything fell apart was holding the eviction notice in her shaking hands while her baby slept in the crib beside her. Now she lived wherever she could find a few square feet of shelter, under bridges, behind old shops, sometimes in abandoned buses near the edge of the city. She'd learned to hide her baby from the world, afraid that someone would take her child away if they discovered how desperate things had become. Every day was a battle between hunger, fear, and hope. But tonight, with the snow coming down harder, she wasn't sure if they would survive until morning. Across town, the city lights shimmered on the windows of a tall glass tower. Inside that building, Ethan Cole, a 38-year-old tech CEO, was finishing the last meeting of the day. He was one of those men the world admired, successful, respected, polished. But if anyone looked past the surface, they would see the shadows behind his eyes. Ethan wasn't the typical millionaire with a perfect life. 3 years earlier, he'd lost his wife, Emma, during childbirth. The doctors had saved their baby girl, Lily, but not her mother. For a long time, Ethan didn't know how to live anymore. He buried himself in work, turning grief into ambition, building his company higher and higher until it became one of the city's biggest names. But at home, when the meetings ended and the applause faded, he still sat alone, haunted by the sound of a crying infant in the middle of a quiet house. Lily was 5 now, bright, curious, and full of innocence. She had her mother's warm brown eyes and a heart too big for her small frame. That evening, she waited by the office window, watching the snow. She loved it, called it sky glitter. When Ethan finally closed his laptop and turned to her, she smiled wide. "Can we go see the lights, Daddy?" she asked softly, her voice filled with hope. He smiled back and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. Let's go see the lights." It was late when they drove through downtown. The city glowed under Christmas decorations, shop windows glimmered, and music floated through the streets. For a moment, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. But then, as their car slowed at a red light, Lily's small voice cut through the hum of the heater. "Daddy," she whispered, pressing her face against the cold window, "please help her." Ethan followed her gaze. On the sidewalk, huddled beneath the streetlight, was Sarah. Her head was bowed, her arms wrapped protectively around her baby, her hair heavy with snow. Something in Ethan froze. He'd seen homeless people before, he'd even donated to shelters, but this was different. Maybe it was because of the baby, or maybe because of the way Lily's voice trembled when she spoke. "Daddy, her baby is freezing," she said again, tears forming in her eyes. "Please, Daddy, please help her." Ethan hesitated. It wasn't safe to stop here. It was late, cold, dark, but one look at his daughter, at those pleading eyes that mirrored her mother's kindness, and he knew he couldn't drive away. He pulled the car over. When he stepped out, the cold wind hit him like knives. The woman didn't even look up as he approached. She was too weak, her body shivering uncontrollably. "Ma'am," he said softly, kneeling beside her, "are you all right?" The words felt small, almost meaningless. She lifted her head slowly, her lips blue, her eyes dazed. "My baby," she whispered, barely audible. Ethan reached out, gently touching the bundle in her arms. The baby was alive, but barely. Her skin was ice cold, her breath shallow. Without another thought, Ethan scooped the woman and her child into his arms and carried them to his car. Inside, the heat blasted. Lily reached forward immediately, wrapping her tiny hands around the baby's fingers. "It's okay, little one," she said softly. "You'll be warm soon." Sarah tried to protest weakly, her voice trembling. "Please, I don't want trouble." But Ethan shook his head. "You're not in trouble," he said quietly. "You're safe now." He drove straight to the nearest hospital, his heart pounding as snow fell harder outside. The doctors rushed them in. The baby was severely hypothermic, but alive. Sarah had frostbite on her hands and feet, dehydration and pneumonia setting in. Ethan stayed until dawn, waiting in the cold hospital corridor, while Lily slept, curled up in his arms. When the doctor finally came out and said, "They'll both recover," Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. He hadn't cried in years. Days turned into weeks. Ethan paid for all of Sarah's hospital bills anonymously at first, but Lily insisted they visit again. "Can we see the baby, Daddy? I think she likes me." The visits became frequent. Lily would bring her drawings, sometimes a stuffed animal or a flower she picked from the garden outside their house. Sarah began to regain strength. Her cheeks regained color, her eyes slowly filled with gratitude and disbelief. She had never met people like them, people who helped not for show, but because their hearts told them to. When Sarah was discharged, she had nowhere to go. Ethan could have stopped there. He had already done more than most, but something in him wouldn't allow it. Maybe because he saw in her the same lost pain he once carried. Maybe because of Lily's innocent insistence that Mommy would have helped her too. Whatever it was, he offered her a job at his company S Foundation, a program that helped struggling families get back on their feet. Sarah hesitated, ashamed, afraid she wasn't good enough. But Ethan told her, "You've cared for people your whole life. Let us care for you now." Months passed. Sarah worked hard, rebuilding her life piece by piece. She moved into a small apartment with her daughter, and slowly, joy returned to her voice. Ethan would sometimes see her at company events, smiling, laughing softly with Lily, who adored the baby and proudly called her "my little snow angel." Something beautiful had grown from that cold night, something more powerful than luck or coincidence. It was kindness, but behind that kindness was also healing. For Ethan, helping Sarah had reopened a part of his heart he thought was gone forever. He realized that sometimes saving someone else can save you too. One evening, as they all stood together watching the sunset from a park bench, Lily looked up at her father and said, "Daddy, I think Mommy's happy in heaven now." Ethan smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. "I think she is too, sweetheart." The world didn't change overnight. There were still people suffering, still nights when the cold felt endless. But for one woman, one baby, one father, and one little girl, Life had found its way back to warmth. And sometimes that's all it takes, a single moment of compassion to change everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, share and subscribe to Kindness of Americans. Your support helps us continue telling true, life-changing stories that remind the world how powerful kindness can be.